Nashville, Noir, Chapter 6. Lindy Granger poured coffee into a large brown mug shaped like a western shirt, complete with pearl buttons down the front, and dropped in 3 heaping spoons of sugar. I took a sip from my yellow mug and poured in a little extra milk to counter the industrial strength brew. It wasn't any worse than the coffee in the Kaboot Cove sheriff's office, but it wasn't any better either. I waited until 10 to knock on her door, but I'd been up since 7, showered and dressed. I was half expecting, half hoping to encounter one of her tenants as I pattered down the hall to the bathroom, but apparently no one had to get up early to go to work. The third floor was deathly quiet, the only sound the creaking of the worn wooden boards beneath my feet. I had paused at the Tammy Wynette room, pressed my ear to the door and knocked softly. I even tried turning the knob, but the room was locked. I planned to ask Mrs. Granger to let me look around and hoped she wouldn't be offended by the request. At 8, I let myself out the front door and wandered the neighborhood until coming across an open coffee shop. A pile of newspapers had been left in a recycle bin in the corner. I pulled out as many copies as I could find of the Nashville Tennessean and settled in a booth where a waitress took my order of a bowl of fruit and a narrow wedge of buttermilk chess pie, a tasty but very sweet southern specialty she recommended. An update on Marker's murder was on the front page of the previous day's edition. Seeing Cindy's name as a suspect in his murder sent a chill up my spine. She was described as an aspiring young songwriter and singer who recently come to Nashville from Kaboot Cove, Maine. The police refused to comment on the case, according to the reporter, but there was a quote from Kaboot Cove's mayor, Jim Shevlin, who briefly described how Kaboot Cove Cares had chosen Cindy and provided financial support for her trip to Nashville. A photograph of Marker accompanied the article and it ended on an inside page with a description of his career. He won Merit Music Awards, was a member of numerous city organizations, and was widely respected in the industry. His personal background included 2 previous marriages and a son, Jimmy from one of them. His widow, wife number 3, was Marilyn Marker of Brentwood, Tennessee. A memorial service would take place Friday. I made my way back to Mrs. Granger's to wait for our appointed time. More coffee? She asked. I'm fine, thanks, I said. Standing at the kitchen counter, Mrs. Granger took several gulps from her mug and dropped 2 slices of bread in the toaster. Catching sight of herself in the reflective side of the appliance, she leaned forward, licked her thumb, and swiped it under each eye to rub away a smudge of mascara that had accumulated there. Do you remember the last time you saw Cindy? I asked. Sometime last week. Might have been on Wednesday or Thursday. She settled in the chair opposite me and pulled her pink silk kimono across her knees. She was rushing out of here with a bag of clothes. I figured she was going to the laundromat. That's a big social thing with some of them, but maybe she had other plans. By the way, I told a few folks last night about you arriving and staying at my place. And somebody said you are a big-time mystery writer. Yes, I do write mystery novels. Is that why you're here to write about Cindy and what she did? Oh no, Mrs. Granger. I came to Nashville because I was instrumental in sending her here. I explained what the Kabuka Cares was and how it raised money to support Cindy's aspirations to become a successful songwriter and performer. Her mother is in the hospital right now, and Cindy's alone here in Nashville. I wanted to show her my support. That's real nice of you. My landlady for one night said, you mentioned that you knew Mr. Marker. Course I did. We lived round the corner from each other for years. Really? Sure thing, sugar. Rod was a good old southern boy, smart. We didn't go to school together. His mama didn't trust her boy to the local schools. Probably right. There was a lot of gang activity then, but different gangs than they have now. He was a skinny little thing. He could take care of himself, though. She suckered air through her teeth. Too bad about him, she said, looking down. Then her eyes opened wide. You got a mouse in your pocket? I beg your pardon? She pointed to my hip. Your jacket. It's moving. Oh, I said, patting my pockets. You startled me. That's my cell phone. I put it on vibrate when I don't want to be interrupted. I pulled out the phone and glanced at the screen. It was Mud Megsga. I can return the call later, I said. Now where were we? We were talking about Rod Marker. Right. It's my understanding from Cindy's mother that Mr. Marker had taken one of Cindy's songs and given it to another singer, and that he put this other singer's name on the song as having written it. Did Cindy ever mention that to you? No. Can't say that she did, but I wouldn't put much stock in that, Mrs. Fletcher. Young girls always have excuses of what they're not making it. They all dream of being the next Carrie Underwood or Taylor Swift, dolled up in heavy makeup and expensive dresses, chatting up anywhere they can think can help them along. Most of them get disappointed and go home real fast. Good riddance, I say. You gotta make sacrifices for success. If you don't, you got nothing to sing about. Impatient for stardom, all of them, don't want to work at it like the rest of us. It sounds like you haven't stopped working at it, I said, smiling. Do you still write country songs and sing? I put pencil to paper every now and then, but the only performing I do's on the demos. Got a writing partner up north, but don't tell no one about that. It's okay, 'cause he's got a southern soul. We write together whenever he comes into town. We've sold one or two, but nothing much came from it. Nothing big anyways, but I don't mind. I get by and I can still go out and party. What about Mr. Marker? Did he have a reputation for ripping off young songwriters? Her smile was small but telling. He probably cut a few corners to get ahead. Rod had a big ego for a small guy, she said, but no more so than a few others I know. Most publishers in town are legit. The good ones don't need to rip anybody off to be successful. You said a detective was coming here today to interview you. That wouldn't happen to be Detective Biddle, would it? I believe that's the name he gave. You know him? We've spoken on the phone. I'm going to police headquarters today in the hope of seeing Cindy. Did Detective Biddle say what time he'd be here? She shook her head, got up, and placed her empty cup in the sink. I don't want to take any more of your time, I said. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to see the room Cindy stayed in. Sure, she wouldn't be needing it anymore. Maybe you can figure out what to do with her things. I'll be wanting to rent that room out to somebody else. She took a key from the board and handed it to me. You're on your own, Mrs. Fletcher. I've got some errands to run. Sure you don't want to stay more than one night? I could let you have the room for a little longer. Give you a good deal on the rent, better than any hotel. That's kind of you, but I've already made plans. What about the other tenants in the house? Was Cindy friendly with anyone in particular? Mrs. Granger stretched her arms up and cocked her head from side to side. Excuse me, she said around with a yawn. There's 4 other girls in the house, plus my nephew, Brandon, who's got a couple of rooms in the back. I guess they were friendly. They're all in the same boot career-wise, that is. Probably trading tips, but not enough to give anyone on edge. Got to protect your contacts. She yawned again, more prolonged this time. Sorry, we closed the place last night. Tootsies? You know about Tootsies? She said. Not really. You mentioned that you were going to see a former tenant sing there. Did I? I forgot. I'm not a fan of her writing, but she's a pretty good performer when she covers the big names. Covers? when she sings their songs. Her own stuff is only so-so. And Nashville is the songs that counts. The story they tell, we're a real lyric city. My puzzled expression prompted her to explain. The lyrics, the thing, she said. There's just so many chords. There's just so many chords a guitar picker can use. So the song's got to tell a real story that a listener can grab onto. I think I understand, I said. Good. May I see Cindy's room? I asked again. Sure, she replied. Go on up and look around all you want. I figured you're trustworthy. With that vote of confidence from my character, I headed for the stairs. Like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Bye!